Good morning, mabuhay, blessed be God forever. My name is Rusti Miko John Espinola Tobes. And our topic for today is the digital self and other in cyberspace. Okay. The term online identity implies that there are a distinction between how people represent themselves online and offline. Identity is narrowing for two reasons. To contrast to the internet in 1990s, people today use social media primarily to communicate with people they know in real life. But in our modern days, in the millennial people, we tend to communicate with others through the use of social media platforms. And also, we have the easy access to the internet in our daily life. We are living in a digital ages than face-to-face interaction. We have interactions involving technology, cellular phones, computers, laptops, gadgets, and other innovative devices of today's generation. But to answer the question that is given, what is your digital self and how you represent yourself online? In this module, I will help you to understand how online identity is established based on the information you offer in technology interaction. And also, it will present the risks and dangers for posting too much of your personal life or pretending to be somebody else in social media world. But before we go on to our discussion, let us first determine the objectives of this module. First objective that you are expected to discuss about online identity and their self in cyberspace and user ID. Second, expand selective self-presentation and impression management. Third is to evaluate the impact on online interactions of the self. And lastly, to compare the online identity of self, public personal, social identity, and gender and sexuality online with the different people and perspective. Our identity online is the sum of our own characteristics and interaction because you are interact differently with each website you visit. Each of those websites you have a different pictures of who you are and what you do. Sometimes different representations of who you are referred to as a partial identities because one of them has the full true pictures of who you are. Our online identity is not the same as your real world identity because the characteristics you represent online differ from the characteristics you represent on the real physical world. Right? Okay. And every website you interact with has its own idea of your identity because each of you visits sees you and your characteristics differently online. Social media like social networking sites, blogs, and online personnel requires user to self-consciously create virtual depiction of themselves. One way of understanding such a self-representation is the information and materials people choose to show others on a Facebook profile or Twitter stream. But identity is not also expressed through interacting with others, whether over instant messenger or via email. Since there are fewer identity cues available online than face-to-face, every piece of digital information a person provides, from typing seeds to a nickname and become an email address, and it can use to make inferences about them. So we make our identity online through doing this kind of things. How do you build your identity, your online identity? Every website that you interact with will collect its own version of who you are, because you are putting, or you are required to show your personal information to log in on online websites. And you need to do what you do real life or selective life to represent far from your real life. Selective self-representation and impression management. These are the characteristics showing behavior designed to convey an image about ourselves to other people and to influence the perception of other people in this image. This explains that behavior can change if we notice that we are being watched or observed. This self-presentation can also change depending on who we are interacting with or what personal information we need to be providing to present ourselves in a way that we will be accepted by others. We can select only what we want to present and impress to others, but we are also viewed beneficial to personality, especially when we created a digital self. We carefully choose representations or expression of one's real world to the online world. The impact of online interaction of the self. When interacting with other people, we automatically make inferences about them without even being consciously aware of it. We cannot help but ponder what they are thinking about, what their facial expression mean, and their intentions are, and so on. This predisposition is what makes social interaction so demanding. This suggests that interaction with people partners requires more emotional involvement and thus more cognitive efforts than interacting through a computer or a phone or cellular phone. So, in conclusion, it is very clear that online interaction does not require a cognitive or emotional involvement, making our interaction with it much easier. A glimpse on the ideas extended self in digital world that could give more light on this topic and will present 5 changes emerging from current digital ages. Number 1, dematerialization. These things are disappearing right before our eyes. Our information, communication, photos, etc. are disappear because we are now largely invisible and immaterial, composed of electronic extremes stored in a digital storage devices in location we will never know. To propose the 4 function on virtual consumption. Number one, to stimulate consumers' desire for both material and virtual goods. Actualize possible daydreams such as those of wealth and status of enacting them in video games. And also to actualize impossible fantasies such as being a magician or space pirate with magical objects. Facilitates experimentation such as being a criminal in a video game. Boundaries of self online, private, public, personal versus social identity online, gender and sexuality online. Okay. Adolescents' online interactions are both a literal and metaphoric screen for representing major adolescents' developmental issues such as asexuality and identity. Because of the public nature of internet chat rooms that provides an open window and expressions of adolescents' concern. Research states that there are more gender-related similarities establishing an online self, and blogs use that the online self is a good venue for gender expression and sexuality. This is because in one's online identity, there is no physical embodiment of gender or other physical markers of identity, and the online interaction serves only as an agency for negotiating and expressing sexually age and sex are primarily categories, and to which people are assigned by an online identity. There are not evident and not explicit interaction online are important sources of sexual information for teens. Yet, extra care with full sense of accountability must be observed in the use of social media to protect the self. And that's the end of my discussion for the topic, the digital self and other in a cyberspace. Thank you for listening, everyone, and good morning.